All right, well, the West Asia war is now raging into its third week. In the last 24 hours, Israel defied a partial pause by hammering Tehran with airstrikes, even as Iranians marked Navroz, killing a senior intelligence official and escalating the decapitation campaign against the regime. Iran struck back hard. Missile barrages slammed central Israel, including cluster munitions that killed civilians in Tel Aviv suburbs, while retaliatory hits rocked Gulf energy hubs. Qatar's Ras Laffan LNG facility burned fiercely again. Meanwhile, the US is surging its troops forward as Trump blasts NATO allies for sitting out, warning them of massive retaliation if energy attacks persist, yet insists no American ground invasion. This is no longer shadow war. It's direct, energy focused and dangerously widening. Oil markets are trembling and the region braces for a worst case scenario. According to state media, Iran's new Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei has issued a message to mark the start of Iranian New Year. He has named New Iranian Year as the year of a resilient economy in the shadow of national unity and national security. Additionally, in a Telegram post, Supreme Leader has said that Iran firmly believes in strengthening relations with neighboring countries. We'll talk about this and try and understand what's going on according to them. Joining us on the broadcast is Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, former diplomat. Wing Commander S. Sudhakaran, defense expert, is also with us on the program. Good evening, gentlemen. And Ambassador Gupta, I'll begin with you. I hope you can hear me, sir. Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, I hope you can hear me, sir.
Yes, now I can hear you. I did not hear your question.
Right. So my question to you is, well, Iran is obviously firmly of the opinion that so far the Americans have not been able to dent anything, that would be of concern to them. Though there have been, sporadic attacks here and there. What is the fallout of this entire war, sir, is the energy crisis and the furtherance of energy depletion, which is also affecting India. What is your take on these developing shortages, and how are they likely to get India also involved in one way or the other, if not in direct fighting, but at least in some sort of a de-escalation exercise between the Israelis, the Americans, and the Iranians?
Good evening, Vineet. You see, US has bombarded Iran. They have total control over the airspace. They have damaged most of the, drone and missile manufacturing facilities. They have also bombed their nuclear facilities. A lot of army and military installations have also been bombed. On the other hand, Israel has killed a lot of people. They have absolutely, perfect intelligence, and they have been targeting a lot of leadership. Now, these two things have been achieved, and Iranian population has been displaced. More than 4 million people are, without homes in Iran. But at the same time, they have not been able to contain two things. One is that Iran is still refusing to come and talk. There is no dialogue process. In fact, the Iranian foreign minister just a little while ago told the region to talk, because twice they did in the past, and both the times they were attacked. And therefore, he is not going to open the dialogue as of now. Then the second thing is about the energy crisis. Even with the smaller weapons, Iran is able to block the Hormuz. They are not allowing, free passage in the water. A lot of ships are holding inside the Persian Gulf, including some of the Indian ships. They are based there. So situation is very, very complicated, because approximately 20% of global energy passes through the Hormuz. Now, as a result, the prices in many countries, Europe is facing approximately 20% higher prices for gas. India and Asia, they are going to have a lot of shortage of gas. In our own country, we are having shortages of LNG. And the crude oil is of course coming from Russia, but we don't know, there may be shortages in crude oil also after a while, if the situation continues like this. So, US and Israel both have failed to deter Iran to block, to free the passage through the Persian Gulf. Now, this is one challenge which they are not able to tackle properly. And this challenge, if continues for longer time, obviously the prices will rise further. And the crude oil prices are in the vicinity of $120 today, 114 to 120, they are fluctuating. And LNG supply has diminished considerably because the production facility in Oman has been attacked, also in UAE, and as well as in other states, particularly I think Kuwait. So all these installations which are supplying energy, if they are not able to supply, even if the passage is available, obviously the prices will go up. So this is a big challenge which the world has to face. But President Trump has been able to persuade some of the European allies to issue a statement that this international passage should not be blocked, and if it is blocked, they will also support. They have not said that clearly, but they have agreed to support US in opening the Hormuz. Now let us see how the things move. I have a feeling that President Trump has some plans to open up the Hormuz to the energy passage, but that does not mean that the risk will be very high. Even if the tankers are escorted, the insurance companies are levying a very high price, and as a result the energy prices will naturally be very high, and the shipping companies are not willing to bring their ships into this area. The second constraint will be the reduced capacity of supply because of Iranian attack on some of the oil installations in the region. So these two factors will continue to impact adversely on the supply of energy, and India will also be affected adversely to some extent. And now the question is whether there is any way to open up dialogue. I don't see any readiness on the part of Iran as of now. I believe the Iranian foreign minister is traveling to Moscow, and he will talk to President Putin.
Fair
And
enough, sir.
then
So we
I
have a
think
number of
something
things
may
to
work
cover, a lot
out.
of ground to cover. I will interrupt you right now, sir. Breaking news coming in. President Donald Trump assailed NATO allies over their lack of support for the US-Israel war against Iran, calling the longtime US allies cowards. He added that without the USA, NATO is a paper tiger. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, how do you look at these comments which have been made by Donald Trump? He's obviously rattling a lot of cages at this point in time.
See, when Trump speaks, he's setting up a smoke screen. The problem with us is that we get caught in his words. He's a businessman, he's a shrewd businessman, and he has survived everything. People wrote him off after the first term because he didn't win, and then he was almost prosecuted and put back in jail for what happened in the White House post his electoral debacle in the first term. Now, the key point here that I would like to make is the Trump administration has approved arms sales valued at over 23 billion to UAE, Kuwait, and Jordan. More than 16 billion publicly announced, plus another additional 7 billion in weapons to the UAE, approved through channels that do not require public disclosure under the US arms export rules. The principal contractors named in the sales are RTX Corporation, which is Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and Lockheed Martin. Simultaneously, the Pentagon is seeking over $200 billion in supplementing budget funding from the Congress to replenish stockpiles of critical weapons depleted in the conflict and to go above and beyond current inventory levels. Hegseth confirmed that US has already struck over 7,000 targets across Iran. I'm just putting things in a certain perspective. So in 21 days of war, the American defense industry has generated or is generating around 23 billion in new foreign military sales, 200 billion in domestic replenishment orders, that is 223 billion in new demand. entirely by the act of burning through existing inventory in combat. Now, this is not the side effect of war. This is the war's most reliable output by any means. The flywheel now with real numbers looks something like this. Think of it as a three-stage economic engine running in real time. Stage one, Trump has actually kick-started American consumption. US and Israeli operations consume precision-guided munitions, Patriot interceptors, and industrial production capacity at war rates. Gulf states immediately requested replenishment of US-made air defense interceptors. Every interceptor fired over Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia is a Raytheonian product. Every Tomahawk that hit Tehran is a Raytheonian product. They are gone and they must be replaced. This fear-driven foreign procurement, with Iran striking Kuwait's Mina al-Ahmadi refinery, Saudi Arabia's eastern oil infrastructure, and UAE airports, did something the US defense sales team could never do in peacetime. It made every Gulf state feel physically vulnerable on their own soil. Kuwait was cleared for $8 billion in lower tier air and missile defense sensor radars, again a Raytheonian system. The UAE bought $2.1 billion in counter-drone systems, $1.22 billion in AMRAAMs, $644 million in air-to-ground munitions, and approximately $4.5 billion in long-range discrimination radar integrated with THAAD systems. These are not considered purchases, these are panic purchases. And panic prices are always at a premium. Imagine what America has got out of this war. We have been talking about Trump bringing America to this. I believe that any American president, maybe he would have been more polished, but then would have ultimately had a different excuse to attack, some country or the other. Why? Because America sits on a 36 trillion debt. No country in the world can afford to do this kind of a debt. And imagine the kind of debt servicing they have to do. For that, the only way out is kickstart the consumption in the economy. From where will they consume? They cannot expect consumption of fridge, air conditioners that we are so used to consuming. The real consumption is in weapons. And the margin in weapons is humongously large. If they had to take money out of these Gulf states on any single day, they wouldn't have been able to do it. This is pure daylight robbery, camouflaged as a war which is going to protect the world from a rogue nation like Iran, which is supposedly having a weapon of mass destruction. Come on, didn't we hear this story with Saddam Hussein? Didn't we see the Gaddafi killing? Because both of them talked about bringing the petrodollar. The petrodollar would have undermined the American dollar's oil hegemony. That is where they fund their entire weapons market. That weapons market is what gives them hegemony on the battlefield. They bully the nations. They tell them what to do. If Trump, after taking over, could sit in the lawns of White House and threaten every single nation, and nobody could even talk about it. It was hush-hush murmurs. Look at how Maduro was picked out, from his presidential palace and branded a dacoit. Did anyone even ask for a rule-based?
All right. Okay, we have some breaking news also coming in. Prime Minister Modi held a telephonic conversation with the King of Bahrain and discussed the West Asia war. In a social media statement, Prime Minister Modi wrote, and I quote, "Had a fruitful discussion with the King of Bahrain, His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, conveyed warm greetings on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr to him and the people of Bahrain. We discussed the current situation in the West Asia region, condemned attacks on the energy and civilian infrastructure in the region, underscoring their adverse impact on global food, fuel and fertilizer security, reiterated the importance of ensuring freedom of navigation and keeping shipping lines open and secure, thanked His Majesty for his continued support for the well-being of the Indian community in Bahrain." Obviously, there's more breaking news coming in. Spain's Prime Minister Sanchez has made a statement on the West Asia war. He stated explicitly that this is an illegal war that Spain does not support. He also said that this message is being embraced by the entire world now. Ambassador Gauri Shankar, what do you make of this non-complicity by Western powers in the American war? Of course, a lot of them are NATO allies.
Yes, Vineet. First, I would like to add something to what Wing Commander Sudhakaran said. Yes, obviously the arms sale has been tremendous. It will boost American economy. Secondly, US has also achieved an objective of containing China in the process by blocking the supply of energy both from Venezuela as well as from Iran. So this is obviously a great achievement for US. Now coming to the NATO allies, I think my experience with I have served in Europe for almost 10, 12 years, and I know the European people. They are quite aligned with US. They might raise objections here and there, but the transatlantic alliance has very strong bondings. Depending on some leaders, they may object, but ultimately they fall in line with US. Because without US, the NATO is absolutely no force at all. And if US abandons, then all the Europeans will have a fear of Russia, which will actually intimidate them considerably. So sooner or later, in the next coming days, you will see all the allies falling in line. You must have seen a very long statement issued by 6 countries, that were the France, Italy, Germany, UK, Japan, and I think one more country. And they have very clearly said that passage through the Strait of Hormuz is international waterway. It must be allowed. It is illegal on the part of Iran to stop it, and if necessary, they will cooperate with the US in this matter. So it is very clear that they are changing. Their position will change, and you will see in the next 2-3 days some of the warships. UK has already moved their warships. Some other countries will also move their warships in the region, because Trump is putting tremendous pressure and they cannot resist that. They cannot isolate themselves from US. It is not possible. I think US is what you call the head of their family. I've seen that in Europe. They shout a lot, they talk about other things, but ultimately they fall in line. So I have that feeling that they will all join. So far as our Prime Minister is concerned, I think he's quietly working very hard. He has spoken to the leaders of France, Malaysia, and all the leaders in the Gulf, particularly Oman, Qatar, UAE, and now Bahrain you just mentioned. He has also spoken to the Jordan, King of Jordan. So he's trying to work out some sort of backdoor diplomacy in which Iran could be persuaded to agree to dialogue. I think we will have to work through Moscow, because the Iranian foreign minister is traveling to Moscow today or tomorrow morning. He will meet President Putin, and I think President Putin can really put pressure on him to agree to a dialogue.
All right,
because
sir. All right, so we have some
suffering
breaking
a
news
lot.
to address
There's
now.
a lot of restrictions.
Right,
in
sir.
Iran.
We have a breaking news to address. An attack has killed 3 people and injured 3 others in the northwestern city of Osku in eastern Azerbaijan province. The report says that the attack was carried out by the US and Israel, is what we are learning at this point in time. And moving on, the Israeli military has reported that it killed Ismail Ahmadi, a senior intelligence figure within Iran's besieged forces, in a strike on Tehran earlier this week. The army described Ahmadi as the head of the besieged intelligence and accused him of playing a central role in planning operations and suppressing anti-government protests in Iran. All right. Before we end this show, Wing Commander Sudhakaran, let's reflect on what normalcy would feel like if every country is showing maturity the way India has. But the fact of the matter is, and you rightly said, that Donald Trump and whatever he says has to be taken with a pinch of salt. But the facts cannot be denied. The world is going through a very adverse phase because of these installations being bombed and the energy crisis, which is consequential of this war.
See, the key where this war will take a decisive turn is when the energy crosses. My assessment is this: you can pin it for a later date. When it crosses the critical threshold of $130 to $150, because so far American economy is running the war. if it is profitable for the economy to run the war, that economy will run this war come what may, because the rest of them are inconsequential. It has to become harder for that economy to run this war, and that hardness will come at a 130 to 150 dollar oil crossover threshold. And why I am saying this is that the defense industry's 223 billion demand surge creates immediate employment in Texas, in Connecticut, in Arizona, in Alabama, and in California, all swing states, all states with large defense manufacturing footprints. Lockheed Martin's Fort Worth plant building F-35, Raytheon's Tucson facility making Tomahawks and Patriot interceptors. The General Dynamics Scranton plant producing artillery shells. These are high-wage, union-adjacent, politically visible job created by the war. They offset some of the consumer pain at the pump politically, even if they don't offset it economically. So the real crossover is not just at 130 and 50, it is oil at 130, 50 for long enough. That consumer pain in swing states with higher petrol, higher food, higher heating costs exceeds the employment gains from defense contracts in those same swing states. That calculation is messier and slower to materialize than a clean oil price threshold. That's when US will pull out. And what will they say? They will say, we have done what we have to done. We have already obliterated Iran. We have achieved our mandate. And they will simply ask Israel to back off. And Iran, having taken the brunt of the force, they would in any case be advised to say, you stop, and there would be some kind of a ceasefire which would be mediated by the likes of somebody like an Oman or somebody who is reliable or close to Iran. Now that is what is going to be the end game for this war. So the single sentence that explains this entire architecture is like this. Like Hegseth said it himself, unguarded on camera, that obviously it takes money to kill the bad guys. So, we are going back to the Congress. When I translate this, the act of killing creates a physical justification for spending, which creates the contracts, which creates the employment.
Completely out of time, Wing Commander Sudhakar, but appreciate you being here. Ambassador Gupta, thank you so much for joining us. So more breaking news coming in. Ukraine has officially entered the West Asia war. Ukrainian officials are helping 5 countries in West Asia in shooting down Iranian drones. These countries include United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait and Jordan. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said that Ukraine is also looking into whether it can have a role in destroying security in the Strait of Hormuz amidst the Iran war. Alright, actor Ramya Spandana took to X today and slammed Aditya Dhar's